And
Exit. Or you, I mean, you don't. You don't have anything there, so no. Oh, jeez. Is it here? Click this tab. Click this tab. Click this tab. Click this tab. This tab. Okay, so you lost it. I don't know where it went. Oh, you found it. Yay. That's where you want to be. This isn't your first webinar. You've done a lot of webinars. That should have been a no. You've done a lot of webinars.
oh, really? When did I do that?
You just did one on the World of Disability Experience.
Yes.
That practice, or that John had you sign up for.
Okay, and how serious?
It's too late. It's already been submitted.
This is the first one I've done by myself, though.
That's true.
Try it now. Okay. Let me check it with Juliana. Hold on.
Let's turn this up a little bit. So.
Go ahead. Do you want me to do it, or can you reach out?
Yeah, I'm turning it up.
Do you see Liz?
That shows you who's talking. And if you have a question, click here and turn the volume back on. Speak your question.
I have to do each one. You show yourself. Yeah, you should have registered on the computer if you registered using the link. But let me see. Let's see. Give you the phone number. Okay. Just say hello to them. They can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. This is Juliana. Can you guys all hear me?
This is Ted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can. Hi.
I hear Ryan and I hear Ted.
But you don't see Liz.
No.
Can you give her?
And Sarah, you don't have to talk if you don't want to.
See if we can get.
We're just waiting for a couple of people to join us.
Do you have the 800 number?
I think I got this time.
There's Brian. Yeah.
So we just can't see you yet, Liz. Are you on the phone? Is that what it is? I wonder if you click on the telephone one, if it shows.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Web Events Made Easy.
Hey, I got a quick question.
Hey,
Is it right now supposed to be on the quick poll screen?
It's for someone else, just listen. So he has me to fill up here, so that's answer that.
fix on the chin. Let's see this yet.
Oh, it's on.
That is cool.
I'll see. All right. Teresa. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can.
Who is this?
This is Brian.
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Web Events Made Easy.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You?
Good. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm using Dragon, naturally speaking, to answer some of my questions. Is anybody? So if anything doesn't look right, let me know.
That's cool, Ted. We'll see how that works as well.
Okay, just let me know if anything, because I get to take notes for John on this. It's part of my job for you guys. So,
All right, I see that Liz is on. Katie is on. Oh, let's see. Liz, we need to give you a...
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Web Events Made Easy.
Teresa, are you there?
Welcome to GoToWebinar, Web Events Made Easy.
You want me to try again?
We're just making sure everybody is on.
Well, I know that you're on.
All right. Go ahead.
Hello, can everybody hear me? This is Teresa.
I can.
Who is this?
Hi, it's Teresa. How's everybody doing?
All right. Can we have people put their phones on mute? If you're presenting, then put it back on when you are going to be presenting.
Okay, we need to. Liz, can you hear me? Okay, so, Liz, can you hear me right now? Yeah, I hear a ringing voice. We're getting some feedback from you. I hear some.
Are you getting a feedback from us?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to mute myself again.
Brian, would you like to welcome everybody to the webinar like you did the last one?
Yeah, love to. Again, for those who don't know, I'm Brian Murray, the president of SAVE. We welcome you to the webinar. This is our second one, and this is exciting for SAVE, so we hope you learn a lot from it. And Teresa, go on.
Okay. So, as Brian said, this is the Community United webinar, and this is a grant that we received from the Administration on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. You might hear people say AIDD, And it's a grant to help self-advocacy groups and organizations become stronger. And we're going to start by talking about this whole webinar is dedicated to online networking. And we'll cover several topics throughout the webinar. And hopefully, as we go through the process, we can also learn and help each other figure out how to get rid of the feedback that we're having with one of our speakers' telephone lines. So Juliana is going to be continuing to work on that, and we'll see if we can get that cleared up for Liz and also for our other presenter that is going to be on. But just in case, I'm always prepared to go ahead and start talking about what they were going to present, and hopefully they can join in as soon as that is cleared up. Today's webinar has many things that it wants to cover, and basically when we wrote the grant, we knew that there were several things that people were struggling with, just like we're struggling with this right now. But you know, with practice, all of us are going to get better at this, and hopefully you will join us in the whole series. There will be 8 more of the webinars, and this one is focused on technology, but not from the social media topic, but how to use it as a resource for sharing information with each other and with other groups so that we can build relationships. Because one of the things that we do know is that finances for all nonprofits and self-advocacy groups, many of us are nonprofits, has been difficult the last few years. So, you know, those are the things that we're going to talk about and over the series of webinars. But this one is, so if we don't have as much money as we did before to do the things that we love, which one of them is about getting together and having trainings and meetings and learning about new things. And we know that that's what's probably going to happen is that those travel dollars to get together are not going to be as much as they used to be unless we figure some of these things out. So, you know, it's good for us to consider the technology is something that we will get better at and all of our friends will get better at over time, because we know that this is the direction we have to go. There's just not as much money in this area of training and education as there used to be. There are still some things that we're going to work on, but we definitely have to add in being able to use technology. So today we're going to talk about strategies that we can use. One of them is how to make phone conferences and webinars more successful, and also talk about one of the pieces of the Our Community United grant, which is what SAVE does best, what self-advocacy does best, which is to have resources and share resources. And our goal for SAVE is to ask all of you to help us build a resource center that is friendly to use, that is going to have some of the best tools that people have created for their self-advocacy groups, and to share them. That's one of the things that I've always liked about self-advocacy is that yes, we do have funders and things like that that we make products for, but we're never shy about sharing what we've learned so that, you know, people don't have to keep recreating the same thing over and over again. we like sharing what we've learned, and that's what our Community United Resource Center is going to do. Is she on? Is she on there? Carrie, for technical difficulties, I'm sure, has not joined us, so we will see if we can continue to work towards getting her to come on. Let's go ahead and talk about what she was going to talk about, which is the low-tech items that we still use, but that we still, we use them a lot, but sometimes people don't know how to make a teleconference meeting like a meeting. It becomes sometimes more social than that. And so we have to think about why people are not using technology when we're starting to talk about these things also. And we've heard that some people think it's just going to be really hard to use. And some people told us that they don't have their own computer or tablet or even a cell phone with internet service. And that they may have the technology, but there's no one to teach them how to use it. That one we can definitely do something about, I think. And then we've also heard that sometimes the parents don't believe that they can learn how to use it. That's been one of the common, excuse me, common items that young people have told me about it, is that their parents just don't believe that they can learn it, and they start to doubt themselves. And we know that we just have to figure out how to use it, how to advance a little bit more into using technology to support our self-advocacy goals. And these are some of the ideas that Carrie had thought of and shared with me, and we definitely were, when we talked about it, we said, oh yes, this is some things that we also agree with, is make sure your leaders and presenters have the code, which we're struggling with, but that's kind of funny because that's one of our first ones. And make it easy for participants to join. It seems like our participants didn't have too much problem joining through the typical GoToWebinar request. It seems that typically has worked pretty well today. But the issue is with learning that telephone conference and how to use that dial-in number and the PIN that's needed. So we'll continue to work on that and make sure that we really try hard to get that going. And whenever possible, to try to start on time. This is for your teleconferences. This is the focus that Carrie wanted to share. And that at the beginning of the teleconference, have everyone test whether they can use that *6 to mute and *7 to unmute. That seems to be a common practice with a lot of the webinar companies, or excuse me, teleconference companies. And we're going to try really hard to keep the background noises low. I don't know if you guys have been on teleconferences where there's a lot of noise, but we've been told that background noises where they've been talking or shuffling papers even eating potato chips really became a problem for a few of our groups here in Arizona. We wanted to say that there was no more loud eating. And besides that, the other people on the phone weren't going to be able to enjoy what you're enjoying. So don't tell them what you're eating because it just makes it worse. And when you're getting ready to go on a teleconference, to have folks, if at all possible, put their cell phone off or to mute it. And a struggle for all of us is to stay on topic and to not get distracted by other things that might be going on. For example, if someone hasn't been on in a while and we start talking to them and trying to catch up with them, and the next thing you know, you've spent 20 minutes just talking about what's going on with them personally. And maybe most people wanted to know that on the teleconference, but quite a few people would say, come on, you guys, we got to get back onto the agenda. And so we have to be careful of that. A tangent could also be about a topic around an issue. Maybe the issue's going to be the marriage penalty for that call. And someone says, man, I couldn't get my bus today. It was really bad. They're getting ready to have a strike. And before you know it, your time's up and you barely touched the topic of the original idea that you wanted, which was, the marriage penalty. And so you didn't get the information that you need, and your participants are frustrated. So, also that there are people who might be sensitive to loud noises, or sensitive to shouting or yelling. A lot of people who have difficulty with hearing, that's really uncomfortable. It's not flowing very well, for them, and they get frustrated that that's happening. Also, it could be very hard for a person who may have had abuse in their lifetime. Hearing shouting and yelling and arguing brings back really, really bad feelings for them. And you're probably going to notice that some people are going to stop participating because it is not a respectful call that they have gotten into. So they'll just become very busy all of a sudden, and you won't have them participate as much as you want. And a good teleconference also, we try really hard to look at people first language and to be, something that's useful for all people, and it's not so complicated that people can't relate to it at all, but it's not so simple that it's not giving people anything exciting to think about or talk about trends or any of that kind of stuff. So that can be really frustrating for people too. So you got to figure out who is your audience and what is it that they need to get from this call, and what is it, most people know. What is it that you need the new leaders to know? And for your experienced leaders, are you going to give them a little bit of something that they can use in their leadership? And one of the things that can be really helpful for people is to go over the agenda at the beginning of the meeting and say, is there anything that someone would like to add to this call that really needs to get taken care of in this call that can't wait? And then you would add those things in, and then you would build the time around it and flex the time to make it work. You have a question? Okay. We also thought of things that were really frustrating. And some of the things that can make a teleconference really go off its way is to have leaders that just kind of let things kind of go their own direction, people talking about whatever they want and not sticking to the agenda or the schedule that they have. And then the next thing you know, you have to schedule another meeting for a topic because no one wanted to let go of what it was that they wanted to talk about on that call. So people were very unsatisfied with that. And then, like we said before, when you're having a teleconference call and chatting with others, and sometimes when you're in a conference call and someone comes on a little late and we all start all over again with our names and say hi and all of that, that can really take up a lot of your time. So when Carrie was thinking of this, she thought that, we really get distracted and we don't do what we were supposed to do on that call. And when you're doing a lunchtime teleconference, to use common manners, to be courteous to each other and just really watch your manners when you're on the phone, because you're going to have to keep that kind of controlled about, going and getting things and not being distracted, like we said, eating difficult foods that makes it hard for people to understand you when you talk and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it just kept coming up about when someone new joins the call, how it can really get off the pace, and we can get distracted by a lot of personal issues. And this was one of Carrie's most difficult things. She said that is really frustrating for people. And that, when you're having these calls, it took you a while to find this schedule, and now you're on the phone and you're not getting your work done. And so then you have to try to reschedule another teleconference, and that it just goes round and round. Is Chester on? We're going to see if Chester is on. One moment, please. Is Chester on, please? Chester, are you on? Nothing. Okay. Well, why don't you, Chester, since you talked to him?
Yeah, Chester and I were trying to get stuff together, and this is Juliana. I'm going to talk about what Chester and I talked about earlier about accessibility. And he just said make sure that you think about things when you're setting up webinars. And he says make sure you have access to the information and make sure that you're familiar with the devices that you'll be using, because if you're not sure what you're using, then it may not work well for you because you may not know how to use it, and then the information might be too much. He also mentioned make sure you know how to use the teleconference services and that they're compatible with whichever device you're using. So learn how to do the calling in, knowing the ID, knowing how to mute and unmute, and how to ask questions, all those kind of things. He said just to make sure that you know how to use that. If you don't, ask somebody. And the last thing said he make sure you know how to use your program. So if you're using a reader, just know how to use it and where to press to get what you need. All right.
Liz, are you able to join us at this time? Liz, are you on with us?
So it says here that Liz, you have to unmute your phone.
And hopefully we won't get that feedback.
Yep.
Hello?
There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Liz.
Okay. Hello. I'm sorry. I apologize. The next part I'm going to be talking about is what's hard about webinars. And these are some of the things that when Teresa talked to people around the country, they mentioned that that they have been a presenter before, but don't know how to set up one for my group. Well, that's simple, and as you can tell, it might not be so simple, but sometimes it is. What I have done is that I find a topic that people are interested in, such as transportation or using computers, and I talk to people around the country about that and see whether they would like to be part of a webinar. The next issue is when I'm presenting as an agency to use smart words. I'm not sure how to use one. It's just a way to let others see what you're writing. Unfortunately, I can't see Wes. It's right now. I'm just hearing you. The next is as Chester's idea is shopping for webinar services. Very important to figure out how to do what service you're interested in and what makes sense for you. What's good about webinar? You can be in different states and working together on projects. Like, for example, Teresa is in Arizona, I'm in Maryland, and Carrie is in Minnesota, and Chester is in New York. And you can have all of us present from those different states through computers and phones. You can see what the presenter is talking about, and you can tell presenters that PowerPoint slides number to go back to if you have a question. What's good about the webinar? The blue person on the slide is an example of a clip art for people that might not be able to read or might not choose to read. Seems like the presenter can take more time to answer questions, and you can leave time for questions at the end. You can learn a totally new topic easier than on a phone conference call, and they're very, it's easy, it's more interesting to look at something than just always hear my voice. You can go through more information together on the phone, and you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over again. Some other tips are practice by yourself as well as the team, meaning the team of people who you're presenting with. Know what you're going to say and know what your team will say. It's very important. You might think that, oh, why do I need to know what Teresa is saying, or why does Teresa need to know what I'm saying? We know what we're talking about, but sometimes when you're presenting, it's nice to know what others are doing so you don't repeat what people are saying. Remind people over and over again to sign up, and I would sign up for a webinar, and I would recommend, and today's webinar was a perfect example. Sabe sent this out a month in advance, a week in advance. The note just a week or a month in advance, and the day before. And if it's today, which is Monday, send a reminder or call people on Friday and say, don't forget about the webinar on Monday, and give people the number and the webinar information. Be patient when people are not sure how to use the technology. I was late getting on because I didn't know how to use the technology information, the technology equipment. So we're also advocates. We all need to understand that technology sometimes isn't our friends. And as I said before, leave time for questions. Planning a webinar. I think I talked about this before, but plan a topic and know the topic you wanted to talk about. Gee, let's talk. I think we need to talk about how to do a webinar, and then get people who know about doing webinars to present, and then setting it up. Set the things, the webinar and the webinars up. First, you need a date. Second of all, I would suggest you practice, and then you make an agenda. Market the webinar, make a flyer, and Sabe has done that. I know that Vicky, one of the advisors, sent out an uh, a list of all the webinars that are happening this year. So that's a great example. Make an agenda for who's going to talk about what and when. Introduce the presenter. Figure out what you're going to talk to people about, how you're going to introduce Brian, or introduce Teresa, or introduce Carrie. And then after today's webinar, I would suggest using taking today as an example, doing like a follow-up survey. And you can do that on computer, you can do that written, you can do that by phone, however you want to do that. Excuse me. Example of problem solving. Have more than one person who knows how to start and use the program or service. Since I don't know very much about setting up webinars, it might be useful for me to have a friend or a coworker to help me in the room to make sure that things will go smoothly. Find people who are talented using computer or talent. Some of you might think that self-advocates are savvy, are knowledgeable about computers, and I'm definitely not. They're knowledgeable about computers, but there are so many self-advocates who might know a lot about computers, and so be willing to reach out to them. Or to support having people who are good at using programs to practice with. Make sure that you use you include those people in your practice. Organization, watching people behind the scenes so you can learn. After today, you can learn from those people who can teach you about computers. Problem-solving technology. I mentioned that it's useful to have somebody in the room if there's a problem with computers. And I also mentioned that find people that can and is able to help you with computers. Problem-solving technology. If you don't have a computer, you can have a toll-free number, the 800 or 866 numbers. That computer connection has the toll-free number to be able to listen to, like I am right now. I can't, the audio, something happened on my computer, and we don't know how to sign on, so I can listen to you. So there's two ways. That sound on the webinar use headset for the presenter, and have somebody have someone you trust to help you set that program in your computer. And please don't share personal information like passwords or personal information, and you'll get spam, and we would hate for you to do that. And now I'll turn it over to Teresa.
Yes, thank you, Liz. And Brian, I'd love for you to chime in anytime that you would like to add some information to the Resource Center discussion, okay?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, the Resource Center is going to be one of the biggest projects, I think, that we have tried to do with our Community United grant. And just as a review, for those who may not have known about it, there was a national survey that was given out, and that's how we came up with the 10 webinars. And that list was actually created from the grant list that our grantor, AIDD, Administration on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, they had a list of things that they felt were important, and we created the list straight off from the grant list. And then the other thing that we thought was important was to have a place that people could find information. But we're needing some help because it's been a slow process to get to start this. And again, it's self-advocates becoming empowered, would like to share information and help other self-advocacy groups. But we're going to need your help to help us build this resource center. And we'd had some questions about what was it we were specifically looking for, and here is a list that might be helpful. And we thought it was helpful to have handouts and trainings, PowerPoint presentations, toolkits, samples, forms, friendly programs that you have found that are really good for your members to use and to work with as they're becoming an organization, or that's keeping them running smoothly now that they are their own 501c3 nonprofit organization. And those kinds of things are hard for us to figure out. Sometimes we think we like what we see on the box, but when we get it, it's not so easy to use. And it's really important for us to share the information and say, you know, people with disabilities are really finding these tablets are very helpful. If I didn't have friends that told me that, because I didn't understand what they did, I would think that they would be difficult to use. So, you know, that's the kind of things we can talk about on the Resource Center, is that how the tablets are changing the world for people with disabilities. And, you know, how groups may have worked to get some of that technology paid for or donated. And your favorite web pages or websites, helpful hints that you have, and ways that you have done marketing for your organization, so that we can have those things available to us to share. And so here are some of the ideas, and of course as soon as I stopped writing, a couple of more came to mind, but these are some of the things that we're looking for. And this is just ideas. If you come up with something else, we would love to take a look at it. Things like having, how did your group come up with its purpose, mission, and vision statements? do you have friendly budget forms that your group understands and can connect to and really get a full awareness of how much money your organization does or doesn't have? Again, we're talking about your favorite programs that you like to use. Is it QuickBooks that is the right thing? We don't have a lot of information saying yes or no. We just hear that that's one that people try. So maybe you know something else that's just as good or better. We'd like to have agenda samples for people to use so that they do have those good, solid, productive meetings, whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person. We need those when you're first starting out becoming an organization. You need to be more productive in your meetings, and people need to know why they're there. And so you may have a way of explaining things that makes it really work for people. And it could be for people that are new leadership and things like that. Those kinds of things can really help. Maybe you have done some planning and strategies that have been really helpful for your group to progress, or you've seen something or heard something or found something on the internet that you want to bring our attention to. This one's a tricky one. How did you explain to your group about being a nonprofit so that they would understand, that role and what it is that nonprofits do and the things that they're allowed to do and not allowed to do? How does the money get used and all that kind of stuff is pretty new to some of us. We can be passionate, experienced leaders and have never been part of that nonprofit world before. And you could have the perfect tool that helps people make that connection. Maybe you have some tricks and handouts that you've made around managing grant money. I know that we, in our group in Arizona, spent a lot of time working on managing grant money and understanding the different kinds of money that an organization may have. And of course, we need more. We need to be able to do our good work, the things that we know that people with disabilities, especially those with developmental disabilities, really need and want us to be able to do. Do you have good samples of bylaws, and are they 25 pages long, or is there a chance that we could do that 4 or 6 page bylaw? And let's see what you have and what your group came up with. But at the same time, we know that if you are going to become a nonprofit, there are things that need to be in those bylaws. Might as well learn about it when you're putting them together so that people have them in case they ever decide that they want to be a nonprofit. Who knows? Different leaders want different things. And of course, we always need to find that good leadership training for board members so that everyone understands what it is that boards of directors do. It's a little bit tricky going from the group role of president to going to a board chairperson or president. It's a little bit different, and we need to have good information to help people make that move to the next level of leadership in their community. Also, event planning. Boy, we can waste a lot of time being off track if we're not careful, and it's really important that we have good tools to help us know how to do event planning and when do you ask people to be part of what you're doing and when to bring in the partners and what could other partners do that you need help with. Those kinds of things are really important to a group, and it can really help you build that stronger organization. I know that there's a lot more that we could talk about. We're going to have, different trainings around networking and social networking. Social capital building is our next topic on July 22nd. And we're going to have a lot of great information around social capital, and you have to have strong members to build that strong foundation of leadership in your organization. So we need that time spent on that leadership development and understanding where their strengths are and where they want to continue to build relationships with their community. Here is a sample document that we just put up here for example of what we might be looking for. This one is a one-page example just because that's easier in this kind of format to use. As you can see, it does several things. It uses pictures and photographs and things like that to help move the pace along for the reader. This is a style that most self-advocacy groups like, that to have that mixture, have those pictures to help it be understandable. And one of the things is that does this need to be edited down some more even? And when we would look at this, we would take a look at all of the information, the graphics, how it uses its messages, and make some decisions about it. Go ahead to the next slide. This is a sample of what we are using right now to help everyone who wants to review documents for the resource center. This is kind of an evaluation that we tried to make as user-friendly as possible. If you have Adobe, it will let you check the boxes or X next to them. It takes us through a process of the basic things that I've learned over the years that made things accessible to people were the use of pictures to explain the topic. Using a friendly step-by-step process can be helpful. Using a discussion activity to involve the whole group and not leave out those quiet, shy members. Does it do that? Does it help the reviewer think that, oh yes, this would be a good tool that we could use that to build that discussion? Are the words that are used easy to understand? Does it have a form and that could be easily changed so that a logo could be put on it from your group, for example? If you liked what it said, would it be easy to put your logo on it and just run with it? Again, knowing that self-advocates, so many of us say, yes, of course you can use it. How can I get it to you in a way that you can use it for your group? No problem. And then, of course, we want to recognize the hard work of the group. So we put something in there somewhere about adapted from or from this certain tool. So the next thing that it does is it could also be a form or something that we're looking at in the review process and evaluating. Is the computer program that it's asking you to use, is that easy to use? Sometimes Adobe is really easy and sometimes it's not. Sometimes Word is easy and sometimes it's not. So, we would test all of those things if we were given item and try to see if it does do all the things that you want it to do. And then you would evaluate it with a yes, it does it great, it does some of it good, but not all of it, or no, it doesn't do anything with that, or it does nothing with that. And then the last one is it provides information that is the best I have ever seen about this topic. We are also looking for those items that people think are excellent. They're what they call best practices in self-advocacy. They do what they need to do, and they do it in a way that involves almost all of the people that's going to be involved with it. And you can see that it's really going to help your group a lot, or help the groups that you support. And then what the reviewer does is they total up the number of the checks that they see on the page, and then we kind of take a look at it and use that to help us guide whether that document or that tool or that activity has scored really well by our evaluators, our reviewers. And they will submit those reviews to the administrative team of this our Community United grant. Then we would take a look at it and say, yes, this is really good. Based on what we have so far, this is really good, but I would like to see more about this area before I decide, because I'm not 100% sold that this is the best we can do. They'll make comments like that, and we'll just collect all of that information and continue to look for other items. And then, go ahead. So we will do some questions after this section. I just wanted to show you that the Resource Center, when it is fully up and operational, it will be on the SaveUSA.org website, and you'll be able to find it there. Right now, we're still in the collecting phase, and that's where you come in. We really want to see all those amazing things that groups have created. We know that they're out there, but we need some help getting them. And so if you could, please send them to me, and I will organize them in a way that we can get them to the reviewers to get feedback on and evaluations on them. And then you would be contacted and let know whether your item has been reviewed or not, and that all items right now will be under consideration. So you might get an email that says you're under consideration, and that means that we're just still collecting. And so we'd really appreciate it if everyone would contribute items from their states so that we can show AIDD that when needed, self-advocates can pull it together and help each other. We know that we've done it in the past, and it's just something that we need to do again to help us all get through these rough times ahead. But hopefully things will not always be that way, but it sure would be nice if we're ready for it when it changes, that we have more groups that have organized and possibly either become a nonprofit or met that partner who's going to help them become a nonprofit, or to apply for grants together in partnership, and with the self-advocacy organizations taking the lead on so many things. This is what the calendar is for the next few webinars. The next one, like I said, is July 22nd, and that's going to be about social capital. And then as they get developed, these webinars will be given a name that focuses in on what they're specifically about. Right now, we are still using the description that was on the survey. The surveys are in the order that they were voted on by all of you guys who filled out a survey. And the thing that we noticed that when we got in so far, there was a lot of surveys that had many topics that scored about the same. And so what we thought we would do as a team, planning committee, that we would take a look at what we've done so far up until October and say, well, people are still asking questions about this or that. We need to do this topic instead. And we wanted to have that flexibility to say this is what the groups, the organizations, the self-advocates, the allies, the supporters, all of those folks that believe in self-advocacy, that these are the things that they are interested in. So this is what we have on the schedule so far, and this webinar will be made available on the website as soon as we begin building it. But if you are interested in receiving the schedule and haven't received it, it has gone out quite a bit. It will be sent out every time there is a webinar with a brief description that's even more clear about what you're going to learn about. And then you'll be able to decide which ones you're going to attend next. We are always looking for people who are interested in being presenters, because we know that that's how you get your best information, is by a lot of different people talking to us. And even though sometimes it looks like I'm doing a lot of the talking, the information that I'm talking about has been gathered from many people. And hopefully as we continue to go on, we'll have more speakers that are able to join us as we continue to figure out the technology. And part of what we're doing is we're trying to have more of us know how these things work. And so there's a little bit of growing pains that has to happen, and hopefully you'll stick with us through it and continue to support what we are trying to do. And I look forward to reading all of your documents. Brian, would you like to say anything about what we're talking about right now?
I want the Resource Center say, that's what's great about this United, is it's the home base, and Say wants to get up and getting connected with everyone in every state, and this is how it can do with the Resource Center. It's getting all the information together, like you said, but it's getting it together, and not like one organization has this, one place has that. And I agree with you. We would love to hear from everyone, self-advocate groups. We want you to get connected with United. I totally hoping that you all will use this, and it'll be one place for all the information, not scattered up. It's not a puzzle. Forums, if there's anything it's working, and this is what I think is really cool about this. Everything's together, like you said. So that's that. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. I'd like to open up the lines for questions from anyone in the audience who would like to ask myself, Brian, Liz, any questions, or tell us about something that you're working on that's really important to you that you want to share.
I would like to ask you.
Who's speaking?
Go ahead and ask your question. Did I hear someone ask a question? We also the full questions that you answered, some of you while you were waiting. Thank you so much for doing those. Those were a lot of fun. For those of you that joined us on the phone, we asked folks if
Hey, Bill.
first
How you doing,
webinar.
buddy?
Good.
How do you do your
It's Brian. Mute him, please. Okay. So we did ask how many webinars.
Okay, buddy. All right. I'm going to take you with me. Or not take you with me.
If you have a question, could you guys raise your hand? You click on the little thing that says raise your hand.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
In terms of when you were talking about technology earlier, what about having trainings on how to actually teach people how to? There's this phrase that they used in the digital divide for self-advocates. What
Right.
if what if we what if an self-advocate comes to me and says, I don't know how to use a computer. What are you talking about?
If they're wanting to get connected to computers right now, the older style computer is probably something that if they wanted to learn it, they could. But a lot of the folks are finding that using the tablets are pretty easy to do a lot of different things.
What about, as you're talking about this resource stuff, what about connecting with the libraries so that the library computers have access to the resource center?
Yeah, everybody, the resource center will be open to everyone, and I would say that
But I'm just thinking libraries would be a good partner for people that, because I see a lot of computers and libraries that for people that don't have access to technology or cannot afford it. That might be a way to go to start working with the libraries and get the resources out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can definitely send them when the grant is looking at how they're going to tell people about the resource center when it's up and running. We'll have a process that we'll go through about educating the community about where it is, what it does, what's the information. One of the things that the group decided at the beginning was it would be a resource center that would be good for any nonprofit that was wanting to get some help about something. And so that was another idea that the group had, is that our stuff would be, yes, inclusive of disability information, but welcome it in a way that the resource center in a way that everyone would find it useful, and not just disability organizations. That the information would be so powerful and so good that it would be a way to model total inclusion of different
I get the point here.
So
I get the point.
yeah, I like the idea, and thank you for reminding me. That's one of the things that we want to do when we're ready to disseminate, is that we want to let them know that it's there. We have had, however, some feedback from self-advocates that say that the libraries don't give them very much time to use the computers that are there. And so that's also something that we could take a look at when we're,
And what about putting these resources in, like, the talking book library? I
yeah.
get books all the time from the talking book library, and they would be a good partner to do this stuff too.
Okay. Well, I thank you for contributing those places, because when we are ready for people to go in there and really check it out, we definitely want to let them know that we're there and that they can access the information just like other folks, and translate it into the formats that they like to use for the talking book library. I actually have a few friends that use that too, and they like it a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. It's great.
Thank you. Any other questions? Does anybody have a question for Liz? She has a lot of webinar experience, and
Brian has questions.
so, okay. Brian has a question. Excuse me.
Oh, I just have a comment you were making.
Okay.
Like library. Well, my library, they don't allow talking at all. They don't allow, so that's where the self-advocates, and this is where SABE and we all can work as a team, is where they have to stand, kind of come up in their communities and try to find, and we can share that with others. Like in this community, they're finding this and this and this resources for computers, and some of them go to their schools, some of them, so we got to be open up in our community.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely want to take a look at that. You'll help me remember that, right, Brian?
Yeah.
When we're ready, those pieces, that would be great.
Yes.
Question? Juliana, is there a question coming across there? There was one already. Juliana's been looking at the written comments and questions. She believes that we have answered it. Who was it that?
Sterling.
Sterling? They're no longer there. What was the question?
About, the question is about sharing resources. Should self-advocates be the only ones giving out the information? And I just said that it's good to have any allies, anybody who can help self-advocates. So it doesn't have to be necessarily just self-advocates.
Yeah, there are all kinds of nonprofit organizations, and we definitely want people to tell us if they found something good from their grant association that they have used or adapted to use or any of that kind of stuff, because that will help us know that the tool is, excuse me, the tool is really useful. Sorry about that. You have any other questions coming up, Juliana?
Nope.
Okay. Is there any last minute questions before our time's up? Well, representing SAVE on this project has been a great pleasure of mine. I sure do appreciate everyone coming in and hanging out with us today on the webinar. I do apologize for some of the delays, but listening to Liz was really worth hanging in there to make sure that we could hear her information. And we will continue to work with our presenters to overcome some of the issues that we're having. Whatever we learn, you'll get to learn it too. So we're all going through this process together, and we'll continue to build our experiences and share them on the webinar series. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.